the Museum of Curiosity.
Hello, my name's John Lloyd, and I'm the Professor of Ignorance at the University of Buckingham. Welcome to the Museum of Curiosity, and joining me, as always, is our curator, Sean Locke.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
What have you been up to?
I was checking out some other museums, see how they do things. I went to the Tower of London, and I got in a bit of trouble, actually, because I was looking at the Henry VIII's armour, and I touched it. I was touching it. This bloke said, "Oi, don't touch that." I said, "What are you talking about? It's armour." That's the minimum you expect from it. But no, they don't like you touching stuff in museums, do they?
Well, you can't touch any of them here because it's all virtual, isn't it?
Yes,
it's all imaginary. Right, let's introduce this week's illustrious triumvirate from our steering committee, and they are Master Puppet Master and Doctor of Letters at the University of Loughborough, Roger Law, Soldier's Sweetheart and Professor of Journalism at the University of Sunderland, Kate Adie, and some bloke who doesn't even have a degree, John Richardson. So, before we divest our guests of their precious chattels, let's get to know them all, starting with you, Kate. Before rising to become the BBC's chief news correspondent, Kate Adie worked in local radio, where she mainly spent her time doing weather forecasts, using the sophisticated technique of looking out of the window. But it wasn't long before Kate was dodging bullets, kneeing Chinese policemen in the groin, and reporting for some of the most dangerous places in the world. Kate, you actually qualified in ancient Icelandic.
When we are next invaded by the Vikings, I shall be a needed national treasure.
Give us a burst of, can you remember any ancient Icelandic?
Oh, not a thing. I used to have the phrase for, I took my sword, slit his belly open, and wound his intestines round the nearest tree. It wasn't enormously practical, of course. There's not a great deal of it has remained.
Did you come across the thing that an awful lot of Icelanders believe in elves?
Well, the nights are long and dark, aren't they?
10% of Icelanders don't believe in elves, 10% definitely believe in them, and 80% won't say one way or the other.
I think the 80% are just going, "You're having a laugh, aren't you?"
So, what was your big break? Was it the Iranian embassy siege? Was that the first time you actually reported from a really dangerous spot?
Well, I'm not sure if it was dangerous. I was behind a car door in Kensington. Stun grenades went off, and it was a huge explosion, smoke billowing everywhere. And the really dangerous thing was to go on air live with no script for 38 minutes.
I know you've recently written a book about danger. What dangerous jobs, for example?
The obvious ones like mine detection and bomb disposal. But also I met a fascinating armed robber who I asked what his line of work was. And he used to say, well, I tell everybody I'm in banking.
Roger, you've met an armed robber, haven't you? Because you knew the Cray brothers, didn't you?
Yes, I did, actually.
Did you prefer Ronnie or Reggie? Who was your favourite?
Well, I didn't actually have any Cray favourites. Reggie, actually, I guess if he hadn't got a mad brother, would have been quite a good East End businessman. But the other one was a bit of a worry, really.
You'd be a very lenient judge, wouldn't you? I tell you what, I think the most dangerous job is working in those fried chicken places on a Friday night. That's dangerous. Imagine a job where you permanently have bars in front of you and you've only got chicken. Imagine how scary that is. That's how much people want chicken.
I think I came across the most dangerous job, and it is still very much in demand today, though everybody thinks it went out centuries ago, and that is food taster.
Food taster?
For which you can't practice, because, you know, you take one mouthful, that's it.
And who has a food taster, then?
George W. Bush came to a banquet at Buckingham Palace. In the kitchens, just before the banquet, they discovered a team of people prowling and investigating every morsel, demanding where it came from and tasting it. And when challenged, they said, "We are the Presidential Nutritional Assessment Unit."
Well, described by Cosmo Landesman as the Vera Lynn of war reporting, Kate Adie, ladies and gentlemen. Now, when John Richardson dropped out of university, because it was true what I said at the beginning, he actually got a first, and then he dropped out to become a chef. But then he managed to drop out of that and finally landed on his feet as a stand-up comedian. You're now in constant demand on the comedy circuit, and you've got your own radio show on BBC Six Music. So, first of all, why did you throw it all away?
I hated university, and it took me a year to realise there's other stuff you can do, so I did that instead.
To want to be a comedian, that's a very brave thing to want.
It's not brave, though, is it? It's only brave if you're not very good. Those guys out there with rubbish acts, no patter, they're the brave ones. They're the guys I take, man. They get up there night after night and trawl through that crap.
For no money.
They're the guys you guys salute, you buddy.
So you chose to live in Swindon.
Yeah.
Tell us why.
It's a good place to not be, if you know what I mean. My job means that if I'm at home, then I'm not doing very well. So my theory was I should live somewhere where I shouldn't be. That's kind of what it is.
Am I right in thinking it's because you don't like people dropping in unexpectedly?
If someone pops round for a coffee, they're going to touch everything you own.
You don't like people touching your things, do you?
No, that's the reason I've put my things where I've put them. And you know, if I wanted them to just move, then I'd live on a boat. That's why I like Swindon. No one's going to come round, nothing's going to move.
But it's because you've got a bit of OCD, haven't you?
A bit, yeah, but then I think everyone has.
Yeah.
I think everyone's got things they're particular about, and it's a sort of safety mechanism. It's all about knowing that if that's facing the right angle from the table, then the world is all right. Right, guys? It's, you know, whether you labels facing forwards, or whether the toilet roll goes forwards or backwards, or whether it goes knives then forks in the cutlery drawer, or forks then... Everyone's got one, and you just, you know, don't stare at me if you haven't found yours yet.
I like this idea that the way that you sort of, rationalise your, condition, is that, it's that you said everyone's got something, you assume that we're all, because I'm actually the opposite of that. I generally live in chaos, and it's an effort for me to sort of come up to the basic standards my wife expects.
That's how it works in a relationship, because you can never have two tidy people together, because they'll kill each other. Two of you would just die of dysentery.
I wash my hands, you know. I don't know.
So now you're a cook as well, I gather.
That was another thing that I couldn't, you know. I like food the way I like it, and I would send dishes up the way that I liked it, and they would come back, and I would refuse to do anything about it. Food would go cold because I'd spent so long sort of assembling the peas into a pyramid or something like that. I like symmetry.
Do you dream recipes, is that right?
Yeah, I dream up new cakes. And when I go to bed, I dreamt up like a set rhubarb and custard flan. It was like rhubarb and rose flavour with a set custard. So when you cut through it, it was a slice of yellow and then a slice of pink and then the pastry. And I went round to get the ingredients at the shop and got chatty checkout lady. I went, oh, what are you going to do with that then? There's no way I can tell the truth. I'm cooking a dream I had.
Ladies and gentlemen, John Richardson. Our next guest describes himself as someone who used to be famous. Roger Law is an artist, caricaturist and puppet maker who, along with Peter Fluck, gave birth to the great rubbery behemoth that was Spitting Image. The original title for Spitting Image was Rubber News, which we thought was very clever because it was a show about the news, and it was in rubber. And then we had pointed out to us from several people that there was actually a publication already called Rubber News for people who liked that kind of thing. How many of the people actually liked their puppets, do you think?
Spitting Image, because it was television, people used to send in photographs in the hope that they would get on to Spitting Image.
They wanted to be on so badly, didn't they?
Well, Jeffrey Archer sent in a whole bunch of pictures.
Yeah.
And Peter said, we're never going to do the bastard. And then 2 weeks after that, he got picked up for handing out money to prostitutes, and we had to.
Yeah. He sent a tape of his voice offering to do his own voice of his own puppet. And Michael Heseltine, do you remember, tried to buy his puppet through intermediaries the whole time. He was so proud of it.
Peter Fluck said he could have it for X amount of money donated to the Labour Party, and that's the last we heard.
How did you feel? This is after my time, Kate, but how did you feel about your puppet? Did you like it?
I used to watch it, fascinated, because, I mean, some puppets were cute, but I do remember there was the Tory politician who slowly morphed into a slug.
Well, that was based on life, though, that one. Anyway, Rog, so you've stopped making puppets now. You quit, you went to Australia, you learned to surf. How old were you when you learned to surf?
About 57.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And then the rest of the year, you go to China. What do you do there?
Well, you can't be in Australia long without being very aware of China. So eventually I went on an art school trip to Jingdezhen, which is where they made porcelain 1,000 years ago and still do. Because it's hugely polluted. There's a thin powder of porcelain all over Jingdezhen. And first you get a cough, and then you get bronchitis, and then you get pneumonia. So you can't work there for too long.
What's your ambition here? Are you trying to do anything particular, or does it just happen to be the best place to do ceramics?
It's the best place to do ceramics. Everything's made of porcelain, but they specialise in big ware. The biggest pot that I've seen is about 45 feet high.
You're joking. And nothing in it, though?
No, it's too tall to put something in, really. You need a ladder. Yeah. But they also, the big pot factory where I work, they have a teapot the size of a small house. And there's a teacup and saucer, and I climbed in it, which took forever, because I'm not as agile as I used to be.
So that's where these legends about elves come from.
And what's Peter Fluck doing now?
He's living in Cornwall on the edge of a cliff, and he was doing some rather nice lettering in stone. And he was telling me that he's going to do, as we're knocking on a bit, a headstone for when we're dead. And mine's going to read Roger and out. And his is going to read petered out.
Ladies and gentlemen, Roger Law. Well, now it's time to find out what our three itinerant scholars have to offer the museum. Mr. Curator.
Yes, thank you, Professor. The museum is now in the receive position. Kate, what would you like to add to our collection?
I've got something for the punters. They're going to come from far and wide. They may even come out of their graves. So great is the power of the thing I'm going to give to this museum. Because these people are in search of the Holy Grail. It all starts back in 1190. Chrétien de Troyes, he wrote an enormously long poem, but it had all of the sort of bits in it that people liked about sort of looking for something, and something vaguely religious and exciting and magical, and dragons and swords and all of that sort of thing, and a bit of romance here. The thing is the Holy Grail. It's not terribly clear what it is. It could be a dish, a bowl, a platter, a salver, something like that. We then go on 10 years, and somebody else comes along. Joseph of Arimathea, starting off in the Middle East, and he has a grail. It's a chalice. And he brings back the blood of Christ from the cross in this chalice, and he comes to Glastonbury. And then, German, called Wolfram von Eschenbach, he calls his thing Parsifal. He drags in a whole load of people called King Arthur, the knights. There's Merlin, there's Guinevere, played by Vanessa Redgrave. These things are very topical. They have stayed in our consciousness for centuries. By then it may actually not be a chalice, may not be a bowl. There's a certain amount of really rather awkward people say it's a stone fallen from heaven. By the time it gets to the 16th century, it's turned into a piece of clothing. It's all very studious stuff and borderline tosh.
Apparently the most there are lots of these things floating around. The best claim to be the real one is a holy chalice in Valencia Cathedral in Spain, made of red agate. And this chalice was venerated by Benedict XVI in 2006.
These people make a lot of claims. The fact that there is a British version from the 12th century is, though, rather heartwarming.
Yes.
Don't we go for that?
Well, I was just going to say, we're quite good on sacred relics in general in this country. I mean, one of the sacred relics at Canterbury Cathedral until the Reformation was a lump of the clay from which God modelled Adam. I mean, how believable is that?
Well,
don't people really want it not to exist? Isn't it better if people go looking for something that's kind of perfect and it doesn't exist? They don't really want it to exist. They want to just keep looking. I mean, I could say my Holy Grail is like a perfect picnic spot.
Yeah.
Every time you choose somewhere to have a picnic, there's always something bloody wrong with it, isn't there? So there's a draft, or there's bees, or you're getting a down drift from a farm. There's the horrible smell. You can never find a perfect picnic spot.
But that's the whole point of a grail. Maybe what I should suggest is that we have a sign saying there's the Holy Grail, and that we should have a curtain in front of it. So you're just not quite sure.
Yeah.
And only you, Mr. Curator,
Yeah.
are allowed to look behind the curtain.
And I could say, it's clear we're cleaning it today, be open tomorrow. I think what we should have is a sign saying Holy Grail this way, and then take them straight into the gift shop.
Somebody told me once, the original, everyone's seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail, they struggled to find the ending. And the original ending of the film was that they found it at the Grail counter in Harrods. Obviously, which is where it would be. And they, for some reason, they changed it. I can't remember what the ending was now, but that is my favourite ending. Just want to bring Roger in, because there is a possibility it might have been a pot, Roger. Did you know that? The Holy Grail might have been a pot.
No, I didn't know
There's
that.
a Welsh legend, an old Welsh story, about the Grail, and the pot belonged to a giant called Bran the Blessed.
I think we have the answer here from Roger. Do you think you could possibly get round to a grail?
Well, why not? Me and the workers will knock one out.
Yeah.
How big?
Well, I think more than 45 feet tall, probably. And... but I have to say, I think we should definitely have the Holy Grail, Kate. That's in the museum.
Thank you
very much.
So, John, what have you got for us?
Well, I'm putting in something that exists, and I know where it is. But I'm going to put in Hannah Hawkswell. I'm going to put in a human. She's a woman who was sort of... I say she was discovered in the 70s. She'd been around longer, but she was found by ITV living on a farm in the middle of the Yorkshire Dales, miles from anyone. No one knew that she was there. And they tried to make her a star. They tried to make TV programmes with her, and people watched her, and they were fascinated. That basically what happened is all the farms around her in the village had closed, and she stayed with her mum, and then her mum died. And she spent 12 years just on her own with a cow. And she lived on about £200 a year. And they did an ITV documentary, and people sent her money, and they sent her gifts, and she stayed where she was because she was tied to the Dales. And she's remarkable. She really shows how we misconstrue what an X Factor is now. X Factor now is someone with big breasts who can sing. But she has something that when you hear her talk, you just can't not fall in love with her. And when you hear her talk, you know that every opinion she's got is something she spent 12 years on her own in a living room with no running water, no electric, no gas, just thinking about the fact that she's going to die on her own. It's not a very uplifting tale until you hear how happy she is. She loves it. She loves where she lives. They did a series where they tried to take her around Europe. They said, oh, we've rescued Hannah. And she said, oh, I'd like to see Europe, but then just generally hated most of it. Just wanted to be at home. They took her to this amazing cave where the light doesn't come in, but it reflects from underneath, so the water's like crystal. And she was on a barge with this guy who said, is it not beautiful, Hannah? No. I don't like the shaking. I like to be at home. And that tends to be what she thought about Europe. It rained a lot, and that pissed her off. She's remarkable. And she's still up there now. She's had to move out of the farm because, obviously there was no running water, and she's 82, I think, now. So she lives in a little village, and, I think I'm in love with her.
Would you like it if she just popped round, or would you expect her to make an appointment?
If Hannah popped round, yeah, I'd be well happy. We talk... Because I'm fascinated by her isolation, because it's become a very artistic thing now to be isolated. It's a gesture that you reject society and you go and live in a cabin. And she had it thrust upon her. She didn't choose to, she's not writing a book. She's not trying to work out society. She's just been left on her own, and she's had to make the best of it. And it shoots through the foot all these people now who think it's very pretentious to live on your own. And they've published a book of some of the things she spoke about. And she spoke about the knowledge that she'll never meet anyone now, and how she'll never marry. And I just find it remarkable that someone spent years of their life just mulling that over. And she talks about meeting a soldier once at a dance when she was about 20. And how he said to her, if you stay, I'll dance all my dances with you. But she had to get home because she knew she'd get spanked if she wasn't home in time. And she never saw him again. And then her life, transpired the way it did. And she just sat and thought about it.
So you want us to put her or something?
I think we just put her on a little chair, and you can go and have a little chat with her. And anything, everything you talk about, she has a valid and well-considered opinion on, I think.
That's a really charming idea. I like that.
It's not the most uplifting tale. But at least it exists.
Are there any examples?
She started this, I think, she was 35 when her
Yeah.
parents died, wasn't she? Or her last parent died. And so, do you think in a few years you might like to do that? Go and live up there?
Kill my parents. My dream is to be sort of away somewhere. I'd like to have a little pub in the middle of the Dales somewhere and just serve nice food, ale on tap, good pork scratchings. That's
Do people have to make an appointment to come to this pub? I'm planning on going out for a drink mid-March. Is that convenient?
People aren't allowed in. It's just for me. They'll only ruin it. They'll spill stuff.
Do you like being alone?
I've got friends who just can't be on their own for like 5 minutes now with mobiles and things like that. They can't handle it, and they can't sleep because when you sleep, you turn the lights off and it's dark and there's no noise, and they're terrified because they never let their brain work out what's knotted inside it. So they listen to storybooks, or they put the TV on, or they have a light on, they have music until they drift off. And we've lost the ability to just sit on our own and think every now and again. And it's really important because that's who you are. When the lights go off and you're on your own, that's who you are.
God, that is...
Good God.
That's scary. Great. Well, I think that's very, very touching, John, and philosophical. And so we will put Hannah Hawkswell, if she's willing to come. We won't make it compulsory, but perhaps she'd like to come to the museum, and we'll install her a little armchair by the fire, do you think? A cosy fire? And a nice book and a mug of cocoa, maybe, and a tartan blanket over her knees. Well, let's hear it for Hannah Hawkswell.
So, Roger, we'd like to know what you would like to add to our collection.
Well, it doesn't exist either, but it could.
Oh, no.
It could exist. When I was a kid, I used to keep rabbits, and they had sort of spots on. And then when I got older, I was working too hard, and someone said, what you need is to think of something you used to enjoy doing and take it up as a hobby. So I did a bit of research with my daughter, and we found these old English rabbits. They look like a white rabbit, and they have a chain of spots down the side. They have a black herringbone ridge along their back, 2 black ears, black spot round the eye, and a beautiful butterfly smut on the nose. An artist called Whipple did a drawing of how they should look, and everybody's been trying to breed one that looks exactly like the drawing ever since, and no one's actually achieved it. And the drawing's really attractive because all the spots are round. The butterfly on the nose is absolutely beautiful. Now, what we discovered was, when we started to breed our rabbits, is that we were crap at genetics. And it's frightfully complicated because what you get in a litter, 50% will be the spotted variety, 25% are called selfs, and they're black. And the other 25% are white with a Charlie Chaplin mustache, and they're called Charlies. And you know, all the rabbit breeders that are into English rabbits, they treat that as seriously as Muhammad Ali did boxing. They are absolutely dedicated. But what I'd really like to do is breed the perfect one, the perfect English rabbit, and put it into your museum.
Apparently, 2 rabbits, theoretically, starting a family, could in 3 years have 33 million relatives. So you don't... It's not a lot of effort breeding rabbits, is it, really?
But this perfect rabbit, is it idealised by an artist, or did he do a drawing of an actual rabbit?
He made one up.
So
Yeah.
he's almost created a fantasy rabbit.
Yes.
So this rabbit is something that all rabbit breeders should aspire to,
Yes.
like a holy grail, but really, it's virtually impossible.
I think it's possible.
What, the butterfly bit?
Yes, they get that all the time. What they don't get is the right number of spots.
Like, if I went home now and drew, like, a giraffe that was purple with ears on its arse, in 300 years' time, there's a lot of scientists going, but how do you get the ears on the arse?
Or a really, really short-necked giraffe. It's got the big, long legs and the body, just a tiny little neck.
That's just evolution, though, isn't it? You get a load of giraffes, but you only put them in a room with bonsai trees. Eventually.
It's already happened, though, in a sort of way. Like elephants in parts of Africa are born without tusks. This because so they don't get poached.
Yeah.
Well, but not so they don't get poached. It's just the ones that are poached don't breed, so they've got smaller tusks. And a lot of tigers apparently been found to be made from very cheap Axminster carpet. It's hardly worth the bullet. It's £2.99 a yard.
But if the law of statistics works, and you have 33 million rabbits from 2 lovely bunnies to begin with in just 3 years, amongst those 33 million, surely...
So also, not only that, but also one of them's got to write the works of Shakespeare out of those 33 million.
Where are you going to put this thing? What, should it have a hutch?
Right, but stuff it and have it doing something, you know, because it's the perfect rabbit. It's doing something like it's got its thumbs up like that going... And it's got permanently Simply the Best by Tina Turner playing over the back of it. It's rabbit game.
Yeah, it's all right. You can have some. There you go. Thank you very much. Well, now, we've got a fictitious 12th century serving dish or cloth from Kate, a celebrity hermit lady.
A sage.
The sage of the Pennines. And a possibly unattainable bunny to add to our collection. So our thanks to our 3 splendid members of our steering committee, Roger Law, John Richardson and Kate Adie. I'd just like to close with this pearl of wisdom, something you were responsible for, Roger. In 1962, published in The Observer, drawn by Roger Law and written by Peter Cook. You know, I go to the theatre to be entertained. I don't want to see plays about rape, sodomy and drug addiction. I can get all that at home. Thank you. That's all from the Museum of Curiosity.
The Museum of Curiosity was curated by John Lloyd, Sean Locke, with research by James Harkin and Molly Oldfield. The exhibits were kindly donated by John Richardson, Kate Adie and Roger Law, and the producers were Richard Turner and Dan Schreiber. If you're the curious sort and you'd like to snoop around the museum's exhibits and prod them, please make your way to the Radio 4 website, where you can find out more about the Museum of Curiosity.